Okay. So, real quick, so Jeff is an 18-year Google veteran. Jeff has spent the majority of his career at the intersection of creativity, technology, and data. He's a frequent public speaker, covering a broad range of topics, including what's my future in the age of AI? How will AI impact creativity? AI for the greater good and personalization at scale. He has been working with the world's largest brands since the early days of digital marketing. As a speaker at executive summits for Google, as well as industry events and universities worldwide, the focus is often about how AI can help marketers tackle some of their biggest challenges, keying in on their organization's specific pain points. Prior to Google, Jeff worked at Apple as well as on the agency and media side of the business, serving as publisher of VAR Business, one of the largest trade magazines for the computer reseller channel. He's also a sculptor who's exhibited worldwide and has a permanent public art installation in Truman Waterfront Park in Key West, Florida. So anyone who's in Florida right now can stop by the Truman Waterfront Park and visit and see some of Jeff's work there. Jeff, just to open up, you have been at Google for over 18 years. How has that gone for you?
Well, it's a good question. People say 18 years, that's a long time. But if anybody's ever seen the movie 50 First Dates, it's probably more akin to that because it's been like 18 first years at Google because technology is moving so quickly. When I first joined, I was doing something called rich media, which is, ads with video and so on. And of course, there was the age of mobile. And now the past few years, AI. So it feels like, feels incredibly different every year. But thanks for the introduction, Jose. Super excited to be here today and excited to be joining everybody in person for those who can make it on the 17th, which is 2 weeks from today. So what I think we're going to do is I'm going to speak and then we're going to have Q&A at the end. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, sounds
Great.
good.
Great. So keep your questions and keep log of those questions because we definitely want to cover those. So I'm going to be talking about amplifying yourself with AI today, which basically meaning that AI is like a jetpack on your back. It's going to be the capabilities we all have are going to be extraordinary, are extraordinary today, and I want to talk about capitalizing on those. Now, of course, this weekend is Easter, and I generated this image with AI with Google Gemini, but I put this here because you can just imagine if we think back to Christmas and Thanksgiving and so on, I wonder how many people on this call had some question, there was some question of them or somebody at the table of what's AI mean to what you're studying, what you're majoring in, or whatever. I think probably everybody here has had some question, whether it's been at a holiday or just a conversation with a family member or friend, because AI is impacting us all, whether you're 18 or 80, like hip or hip replacement. AI is truly changing all of our lives. And what do we do about it? How does it open doors for us? How do we capitalize on it? So today's agenda, we're going to be talking sort of demystifying AI. I know we all talk about it and we think we know about it, but it's just sort of a baseline conversation. And then talk about how it's driving business today and then making it work for you. And that's, I think, the most important thing. So I share this dinosaur because it's on the campus, Google's campus headquarters in Northern California in Silicon Valley. And I share it with a point of humility because Google right now is one of the lead companies in the world and so on, but we live in this constant state of paranoia that we could be blindsided. Just like IBM was blindsided years ago, Microsoft was blindsided by Google. We could all be blindsided because AI is so powerful and moving so quickly that in the hands of even the folks on the call today, you could be the next senior executives at whatever company blindsides Google because there's so much capability at your fingertips. So we all have to be aware of the change and the opportunities as well as the downsides. If you've got a cemented position like Google does, you've got a lot to lose if you're not on top of it. I'm going to step back a second and mention how I use both AI, both in my work as an AI strategist, talking to audiences around the world, but also as a sculptor. And this image I show here, this is a sculpture I did. The one that Jose mentioned is in Florida. It originally was designed for Riverside Park here in New York City at 145th and the Hudson River. And so picture on the left is what it looked like installed, but on the right is what it looked like as the little model that I first showed the selection committee back in 2016. And I use this as an example of how AI has changed the way I work as a sculptor, because back in those days, before generative AI, this is the way I presented a sculpture. I made a model. If anybody's familiar with roof flashing that you get at Home Depot, that's what I have used traditionally because it bends and it's a cool way to show a metal. But that's what I did. It was about 8 inches tall. And just to show what this sculpture is about, it's called Wavehenge, and it's essentially taking the shadows of the large upright sculpture, and it's looking at the shadows cast at the two different solstices and the two different equinoxes. And in yellow, in sort of vibrant green here, it shows stylized benches. And this is one of the things that got me this commission is when the Parks Department said, hey, we're looking for sculptures for the park. They said, one of the things they said was, we don't have much seating in the park. We would always be interested in more seating. So I took note of that and incorporated seating in the design. When you're putting together solutions, we're always thinking about how can we really serve the customer's needs, in this case, the Parks Department, and designing benches that corresponded to the shadows was sort of a cool way to do that. And it also made this a gigantic sundial. This is an image of the installed piece with those benches. So I have to say that AI today, if we did this project today, would be so instrumental in making things a lot easier. First off, all those calculations for those benches and the shadows took about 6 weeks to do. Today, that would take about 2 days with AI tools. Secondly, the visualization. I showed you that little model I did. Nowadays, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing for an upcoming sculpture, you can do really much better renderings. And this is what I'm going to show you now. Look at how I can visualize with AI. This is a piece that I'm proposing to artist, but it's a heck of a lot more compelling than that little model I showed you. So I just show that because this is where AI can help a sculptor. Now let's sort of step back and talk about the news, all the news that's been going on about AI taking jobs away, and everybody is concerned about what does it mean for me? And especially in college, you've got to be asking yourself, how do I future-proof my career? How do I make it so that AI doesn't take the job or a career path that I was planning on? Well, I want to think back to the 1840s when photography first came into being. When photography was first invented, there were painters that painted, they did two things mostly. They painted in churches and they painted portraits. And the folks who were doing churches had a pretty good idea their jobs were safe, that there wouldn't be a lot of photography on the walls in the church. But the folks who did portraiture commissions were really scared because they said, you know what, people, this is what they were doing. People can now have photographs made that are much cheaper and much better likeness. They thought that photography was going to be the end of painting. Well, in fact, at the time, what happened was photography unshackled photorealistic painters. No longer did you have to be doing just that. You could open up the world now because you didn't have to do photorealism. And that began what we think of as art today. So this is Impressionism. This is Vincent van Gogh. This is Cubism. This is Picasso. And then we got into modern and abstract and expressionism that we all think of. This is Jackson Pollock, and this is Andy Warhol. This is what we all think of as modern art. And if you go to the big auction houses, these are the pieces that have been fetching the most money. But back in 1840, no one could have visualized, could have understood this was going to happen. They thought the sky was falling. And I think that's akin to where we are today. We see the world through a framework that we know that certain jobs are going away or becoming less likely to be in large numbers. And we don't know what the future holds. So we are automatically going to that sort of chicken little metaphor. Whereas I think there's going to be tremendous new careers, new career paths that are going to open up. And we're going to see those happening. So truly, I think we're at the intersection of imagination and technology because we've got this tech that is opening up new doors to be able to express ourselves and do new things, much like the artists whose skills were unshackled by photography. So AI, I think there's several things to keep in mind. AI is the new level playing field. Absolutely. Everyone basically has access to the same tools. So it's truly democratized. And most importantly, your skills collaborating with it are going to set you apart, the truly AI fluency. So I really encourage students and faculty and everybody to lean in with AI. Now, granted, there's always the concern of, will students use AI to plagiarize? Will it make them less intelligent? Will it make them, lazier? I don't believe so, because if everybody's got it, that's the baseline. This is now, as I said, a jetpack. And if you're writing a script, a screenplay, or if you're doing technical writing, this is going to give you tools to be able to do far more compelling work. And the folks who use it that way are going to really succeed wildly. The folks who just use it to take the easy path are going to do work that's really very mediocre, and everybody could be doing it. So truly, I don't think this is going to dumb down the work. I think it's going to give everybody an extra bit of, or a lot more capability. So we think about, from a jobs perspective, job listings that demand AI fluency, the ability to use and manage AI tools, has grown 7-fold in the past 2 years, faster than any other skill in job postings. I think that's going to only accelerate. So you've got to really lean into AI, figure out new and innovative ways to use it. And I venture to say we need to do this in group settings too. The pandemic has all of us used to working in our own silos, but truly the best way to learn is seeing and learning how others use it. As a sculptor and a painter, when I go into art studio, which I do at least 2 to 3 nights a week, one of the main reasons I go, in addition to having a great space and a lot of room and some cool models, is because I'm able to see and learn from other people and how they're doing it, how they're using different materials. It's the same way with AI, that we all can learn so much from one another. So let's just step back. I want to take you sort of on a little journey on the way I talk about AI, the way I've been speaking about it at Google, even with the CEO of Coca-Cola or Procter & Gamble. When they come to visit Google, I take them through the same sort of thinking about how we view AI. So AI is essentially mimicking NI, which is natural intelligence. And when we think of natural intelligence, we think of it in a framework of right brain and left brain. If we take that same sort of basis and we think of AI, generative AI is the right brain. It's the part that does conversations and creates content. That's the part that is the sexiest, shiniest, newest part since November of 22 when ChatGPT launched. And that's what we think of when with video content and so on, really cool stuff. The left brain part, the less sexy part, the analytical AI, is what's been around truthfully for decades. It's what helps synthesize data and make predictions. When I say predictions, this is what GPS is. GPS has been around for more than 3 decades now. Before GPS on your phone, there was a thing called MapQuest, which your parents and grandparents might remember. But this has been around forever. So anybody that's got somebody in their lives that says, oh, I'm not going to use AI, I don't want to use it, unless they're using a map, a paper map to get from point A to point B, they are using AI, and you need to remind them of that. So they need to get on board and not be so distrustful because they're already using it everywhere in their lives. They just might not be realizing it. So I also take folks who visit Google to this this scenario of AI being the most profound technology that's been invented to date. And I truly believe that. I don't think this is hyperbole. So if we look back at all the profound inventions and how they've impacted civilization, I think we need to realize that everything has a list of pros and cons, and it's how we manage those. So the printing press in the 1400s, when that was invented, people were concerned that it was going to spread dangerous ideas around the world. Well, indeed, it did spread ideas. I wouldn't say they were dangerous. It democratized education as we knew it. Until that time, only certain people could read and write, and others were just left to. And this is truly the way education and civilization has grown. Electricity in 1752, when Ben Franklin from Philadelphia, my hometown, discovered electricity with the kite and key, people said, oh, this is witchcraft. You could get burned. It's scary. Well, truly, you can get shocked and burned by electricity. And this is why when we're kids, our parents and grandparents put those covers over the electrical outlets so that we don't stick our fingers or a fork into the outlet. But in reality, electricity has had tremendous upsides. And everybody knows when there's a blackout, how that causes such a disruption to our lives. And then lastly, the automobile, or not lastly, but in this other examples. When the car was invented in 1886, people thought 20 miles an hour was frightfully dangerous. We think about it today, that's of course nothing. But in those days, people were concerned that it would wreak havoc, it would cause destruction. Well, okay, to be truthful, there have been a tremendous amount of fatalities, roadway fatalities, because of car crashes. And this is why we have speed limits. This is why we have require everybody to get driver's licenses. This is why all that's necessary. But for the most part, the combustion engine, which has powered the automobile, has been a tremendous asset to civilization. Now we get AI, and once again, AI is not without its downsides. But there's tremendous opportunity here, and I think we all need to take stock in it and lean into it, because you know what? The genie is out of the bottle. Anybody that says we need to, clamp down on it, there's no clamping down on it. We just there needs to be regulations on ethical use of it, but we need to all embrace it and think of how do we use it in ways that are going to help society and help each other grow. So that said, I'm going to talk about marketing in the age of AI, but of course, there's a lot of different students and faculty on the call from all different disciplines. I'm going to be talking about marketing, but I'm also going to be talking about some other things that relate to it. Marketing is just my background. And specifically, insights, personalization, and agility. And regardless whether you're in marketing or some other major, these three are going to play out significantly, and these benefits. So insights, whether you're in marketing or medical imaging or anything else, insights are tremendous from AI. This means that with scans of X-rays and so on, we can, the medical field can look at millions of scans of, let's say, mammograms, and AI can look at and take the top 90% of mammograms and say, you know what, these are fine. And then they can focus on and serve the 10% or the 5% that look abnormal. They can serve those up to radiologists to inspect those individually. That is a tremendous time saver and cost saver for medicine, and it helps catch abnormalities that might not have been caught before. Personalization, to be able to, whether it's marketing or you name it, to be able to make sure that you're giving relevant information and helping folks in a particular way that's most useful for them. And then lastly, agility, the ability to take those insights, to do these various things, and to do it more quickly and with less effort than ever before. This is all of what we see in marketing, but as I said, we see in a lot of other fields. I'm talking a lot here, but I promise you'll get opportunity to ask some questions. I want to show you an example of something that Google did for the Super Bowl in 2025. So this was a little over a year ago. We ran an ad for Gemini, and our ad agency created the ad using very standard, they used actors, they used film, they used lighting, so on and so forth. And at the end of the process, they gave us the ad, which we ran on the Super Bowl, but they also did the same ad using AI, using Gemini, just as sort of an example of what's possible. The ad never was broadcast, but I want to show you the two ads today, and I want you to guess which one was AI. Now, once again, it's a year old, so technology's come a long way, but take a look at this. Hopefully it'll play.
My grandfather taught me everything I know. Our little family businesses work their tails off.
We never miss a detail, and those things matter.
The legacy and the tradition and the craft, it's what I live by.
It's nice working with your family.
We're a two-person team.
We're also busy moms.
The financial side can be very daunting.
If our schedule gets messed up, everything falls apart.
We don't have a lot of time.
We're not professional.
I have a tendency to be very wordy.
Using Gemini has been a game changer.
Gemini in Google Docs helps me write website descriptions.
AI allows us to make quick business decisions.
It translates everything live. It was magic the first time I saw this.
Gemini in Gmail really lets our staff save time drafting emails.
It makes my response more concise and so much better.
Mocking up a concept, we can do that in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, we have time to keep doing what we love.
And it opened up the world to me.
This is a beautiful thing we're doing, and we're proud of what we do.
Okay, so whoever's monitoring the call, everybody should vote. If anybody can, vote and tell us which you think was the AI generated one, which is the bottom one or the top one. And then Jose and Sean, if you can, I don't know whether you're able to see that. I'd be curious to get everybody's thoughts before I tell you which is which.
What do you think, Jose? Put it in the chat. I think it's the easiest way for people to say. So the question is, which is the AI, the top one or the bottom? Is that correct, Jeff?
That's correct.
Okay.
So I see a lot of different. I saw a bunch of different ones coming in too. Jose and Sean, what do you think?
I just voted in the chat myself, and I'm just scanning. Let's see when.
It's almost 50-50 here. It looks like.
Yeah, it seems kind of close so far.
Okay.
Top, 4,
You
5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's right now it's 5 and 5.
Okay. Well, as it should be, because this is a difficult challenge. And I said, this is more than a year old, so the technology has gotten even better. But the top one was AI. And, there's a variety of different things you could say. Are there any clues? But the biggest clues are, first off, Gemini will not render images of children. And so in the bottom one, there was a child. In the top one, there are no kids. Now that's Gemini. Some other AI engines will, but ours won't. And then, then the other one is in the top one, there was a woman wearing a T-shirt, and the print on the T-shirt was definitely not right. And that's something that still to this day, at least Gemini and some of the other tools in video can't quite get text correctly. So anyway, but that's probably all going to change down the line, and deep fakes are going to become more difficult to spot. But I wanted to just share that. So I'm going to give you another example of something fun that you can all do, whether it's for a friend or relative's birthday or whatever. I took a still photograph of myself, and I gave it the prompt. This is Google Flow, by the way, part of Gemini. I gave it the prompt, make the man in the photo singing, and then I did that. Let me show you what it did.
Good morning, City Tech students. Let's talk about how AI can amplify your success.
Okay, so that is just something. Now that sort of goes to show, I think one of the most important things that we, no matter whether we're students who are just graduating or somewhere else in our careers, one of the most important things is I talked about the jetpack sort of metaphor about how AI can really amplify ourselves. There's an old saying that I read many years ago by a very important guy in the sales business saying, there are no traffic jams on the extra mile. It means if you do something extra that nobody else does or nobody else thinks about, you're going to stand out. And that's the same thing here. There are so many tools available to make yourself stand out that, this is just one of them. But if you're going on a job interview, let's say, you're able to get a lot of data about the organization you're going to be seeing, whether it's a profit or a nonprofit. If you not only get that data, but then you ask for analysis of that. If you're going into a hospital, tell me the background on this hospital, and then tell me the top 3 pain points or the top 3 challenges the hospital's facing. And then you feed it your resume and you say, given my resume and my work experience, how might you think I can tailor my background to those top 3 pain points that the organization is dealing with? And you walk into that interview with a more powerful conversation. It's not just, hey, this is my background, but it's, hey, I understand that Lutheran Hospital has been dealing with these particular 3 challenges. And let me tell you how I can help with those challenges. And then you start talking about your background, how it relates to something that's important to your prospective employer. It's that type of going the extra mile, which is going to be key. I'm going to tell you about how a few other people are doing this, a few other organizations. So Starbucks. Anybody on the call have the Starbucks app? I bet you several people do. If you do, you're one of 17 million people around the world that does. And it's part of what Starbucks calls Deep Brew. It's their AI implementation. It's how how AI turned sort of a non-tech gigantic organization like Starbucks into one that demonstrated and gained a 30% ROI using AI. So 100 million customers, 38,000 stores around the globe, 90 million weekly transactions. And it all was based on this app that was launched in 2011. And in 2019, they said, let's take this app to a new level. Let's put an AI foundation behind it. And what they did was, with that AI foundation, now when you go into a Starbucks anywhere in the world, you should be greeted by a barista that calls you by your name. So if you go to Istanbul, or you go to Abu Dhabi, or you go to Topeka, Kansas, you should be greeted by a barista who says, hey, Jeff, hey, Sean, hey, Jose, here is your latte with oat milk. Now that is, assuming you ordered that. So it saves lines and so on, but it makes you feel like you're at home. It's not a creepy thing, but so that's first off. It is sort of patched into the machinery at the branches, at the stores, to see how the machines are doing. And it'll call out, hey, the steamer in the one cappuccino maker is having some issues or running too hot at this store in Flatbush, and it needs to be replaced. It'll also say, so that's going to make sure that wait times are not so long, because hopefully the equipment's running smoothly and they've got all the inventory they need. But it's also going to help with staffing. They're going to see that, hey, staffing at the Midwood location needs between 4 and 6 p.m. needs more people. That's going to help too. And it also is going to help in trying to figure out which new locations should be opened up, so that they don't cannibalize the existing locations. So it's going to look at, income levels. It's going to look at traffic patterns. It's going to look at revenue history in the other locations around it. So it's doing all these things. It's not just personalizing, but it's streamlining the business. And then lastly, it's looking at what people are ordering, and doing some prediction analysis about what they might like. So one of the things it revealed was that tea drinkers were using less sugar or skipping the sugar entirely. And so what they did was they created 2 new tea drinks that didn't have sugar, because that's what the market was telling them. So this is helping all along the way with everything we just discussed. Plus, it's giving, from a promotion perspective, if there's a big heat wave, let's say in Memphis, it's going to give a special message in the Memphis area showing and talking about chilled drinks, like a Frappuccino promotion versus some sort of a hot drink. So all that sort of holistic integration I'm talking about created a surge in their overall ROI of 30%, plus a growth in customer engagement by 15%. That is huge. That's not necessarily getting rid of jobs. It's making them more competitive with Dunkin' Donuts and all the other potential coffee competitors they're focusing on. This is where you, as new graduates and digitally native folks who think digitally first and think of all the capabilities that are possible, you can come into an organization like Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, or any other sort of organization, and see things with fresh eyes. People my age, think this is the way it's always been done. Let's continue to do it. But you folks, you don't have to think like that. You know that there's our new, more efficient ways to do it. And this is why you're going to succeed. So I think one of the things to think about, I'm going to try a demo here in a second, is just how it's put in use. So I'm going to show you a demo, but before I show you the demo, I want to show you the image that I created for this slide. At first I said, create an image of some people about to watch a live demo. And this is what it gave me. And I said, no, wait a second. They're all guys in this image, and they're all white guys in this image, and they're all older guys in this image. So this is where, you need to use AI with an iterative perspective, because it's not going to give you everything you want in the first time. You're going to need to work and finesse it. And then I went to the next image and I said, as I said that, and this is what it gave me. So This is super cool. So I'm going to go into Gemini right now, but you can go into any search, and I'm going to ask it something here. So let's just make sure the sound's on here. Okay. So Gemini, I'm having Seder dinner tomorrow night, and I'm trying to decide a low carb recipe for a side dish. Can you give me some help with that? Let's see if it'll do it.
Since we are right in the heart of spring, it is a great time to take advantage of the fresh produce hitting the markets. Depending on what you're serving as the main course, here are 3 low-carb side dish options ranging from quick and fresh to comforting and rich. 1. Lemon Parmesan roasted asparagus. Asparagus is at its peak in April. This is a light, elegant side that pairs perfectly with fish or roasted chicken. The vibe?
Okay, that's really cool. Thank you for that. My little nephew's coming over, my 5-year-old nephew who is obsessed with dinosaurs. Is there a quick story I can weave in with dinosaurs and Seder that will get him especially engaged?
That is a fantastic idea. Since Passover is right around the corner, and you have a dinosaur enthusiast on your hands, you can lean into the big history of the world. Kids love the idea that dinosaurs were part of the earth long before us, and it makes the story of the Exodus feel even more epic. Here is a quick, engaging way to weave them together. The Dino Exodus story, millions of years before the Jewish people left Egypt, the giant Brachiosaurus and the T-Rex walked on this very same earth. They were the first kings of the world. But even the strongest dinosaurs had to follow the rules of nature. When we sit at the Seder table, we talk about a time when the Jewish people were like the smaller, faster dinosaurs, like the Compsognathus.
That's really cool. Can you also recommend a dessert that a 5-year-old kid would like that is kosher for Passover?
Since we want to keep that dinosaur momentum going while staying kosher for Passover, KFP, here are a few ideas that are hits with 5-year-olds, including one that fits your Dino Seder theme perfectly. 1. Dino Fossil Chocolate Macaroons. Coconut macaroons are a Passover staple, but they...
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. So that just gives you an idea of how we can all be using AI. And that's just sort of a fun thing, but really there's tremendous opportunity. So I'm going to show you, first off, Jose and Sean, where am I on time? Do I have some more time to show some things?
Yes, Jeff.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to show you just a few examples, and then we're going to come to some close to the end here. But I can go on a lot, and I want to make sure I don't overstep my limits here. So I'm going to show you an example of how one advertiser, Pods, and you've probably seen these Pods containers, used AI to create a very compelling, personalized ad campaign. And once again, this is just advertising, but we can think about this in a lot of different lights.
For over 25 years, the Pods container has been more than just a moving container. Driving the streets of America, it's served as a giant billboard reminding people of Pods. So we teamed up with Google Gemini and turned a Pods container into the world's smartest billboard. A billboard so smart it would know where it was, what time it was, traffic conditions, subway delays, and then generate hyper neighborhood specific lines in real time.
So this gives you an idea. This particular campaign generated 1,600 different headlines that were hyper personalized, and in doing so, this campaign generated 60% more website visits than anything they'd ever done before. So super cool use of AI in this particular example. Let's move on to the next slide. Cadbury Chocolate Company and their focus on India. This is a quick thing I'm going to show you about how they used AI to take an actor's voice and video and customize it to promote thousands of different retailers that were all struggling in India after the pandemic. So let me show you this real quick.
Big brands have big money to hire famous people, but not the small guys. And they are the ones who are still hurting. Presenting Shah Rukh Khan, My Ad.
Welcome, Shah Rukh Khan! He almost certainly has more devoted fans than any other movie star in the world.
Biggest movie star in the world.
Forbes have called him one of the biggest movie stars in the world.
We helped small businesses by making Shah Rukh Khan, the world's biggest movie star, their brand ambassador.
इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले फैशन नोवा एम्पोरियम से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना। सिद्धि विनायक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स से लेटेस्ट स्मार्टफोन खरीदकर धमाकेदार सेल्फी पोस्ट करना।
क्या कर रहे हो? मीठा लाए कि नहीं?
We used machine learning to recreate Shah Rukh Khan's face and voice to take the local store names in the ads.
आप भी ना अपने पास वाली चॉइस ऑफ फैशन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना। रॉयल फैशन से ही, MK क्लॉथ्स से ही, पास वाली लक्ष्मी कलेक्शन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग।
Different versions of the same ad with local store names were targeted as per the PIN code of the viewer, showing them only the nearby stores. But it is impossible to cover all the stores. So we gave the power to the people to create their own version of Shah Rukh Khan, My Ad. Any small business owner could promote their stores through their own social media networks like WhatsApp forwards and other social media pages.
It is Shah Rukh Khan selling your store, man. If you're a small-time retailer or a merchant, what an...
That is extraordinary when you think of the... So somebody had to think of that idea. The technology existed, but it was somebody like you guys on the call today who actually had to dream up this idea based on this capability. This is truly the jetpack metaphor I'm talking about. Now you've got so much more cool ideas at your fingertips that the intern at the ad agency could be the one to come up with the coolest idea, because they're the ones perhaps who know this technology better than anybody else. 130,000 different ad versions were created from that campaign, 30 million ad views, and a 35% increase in Cadbury's business in India. So extraordinary stuff. One more example, and this is for Nike. And Nike in the marketing world is probably one of the most advanced, sophisticated marketers there is out there. I'm going to show you something they did, which sort of broke the mold. And once again, it's something that is so out of the box that it's something that folks on this call could easily be the ones to develop. So let me show you this. So essentially, what they did was, I don't know if you've seen this, but they did basically a match, a virtual match between two versions of Serena Williams. The one that won her first Grand Slam in 1999, and the one where she won her last in 2017. I'm going to show it to you briefly, and you'll see what's possible.
Serena Williams isn't just the greatest tennis player. She's the greatest athlete. We wanted to look back at how she elevated her style of play over time. Through archival footage and advanced AI, we generated 130,000 games between two Serenas from two different eras. 1999, the year she won her first Grand Slam, versus 2017, the year she won her record-breaking 23rd. Let's see how Serena evolved as a champion, from the best in the game to the best ever.
In tennis, there are no bigger dream matches than this one. One Grand Slam title against 23 Grand Slam titles. Here we go with game one.
1999 to serve. Love 15.
2017, Serena takes the first point.
Now this goes
Take
on.
one more look on the replay, just how close this one was. Barely stayed in. She will take it.
So that goes on for 8 minutes. I want to ask you, which version of Serena do you think won? And Jose and Sean, I'm going to ask you to sort of monitor and see what people's votes are here.
Looks like 2017 is taking the lead.
Okay. And for good reason, because that is the version that won. So it reinforces that experience and age over beauty, age over youth, always triumphs because of experience. And anyway, but the most important thing, the most important takeaway is this particular execution had 1,000% more video views than anything Nike had ever posted. Now, that's Nike, who's done extraordinary video creative. But this particular idea, because it was so out of the box, so revolutionary, blew the doors off anything they'd ever done. This is the opportunity for everybody on this call to sort of be inspired that you can create the coolest idea, because now so much technology is in your fingertips. So I encourage everybody to take advantage of that. One last thing is Notebook LM. I'm curious if people are aware of Notebook LM on this call. It's a tremendous tool for, it's basically a localized language model. So it's like having Gemini or Claude, a local version on your laptop or on your phone, where you feed it just the documents and files you want it to analyze, not everything in the world. A lot of students use it for studying because they'll put all their class notes in, and then they can make a podcast. So the app can sort of read their notes back and have in a conversational way. It helps them study. But it's used in so many different ways that you can put, all sorts of things you want to, you could put recipes, anything you wanted to analyze and look at. So I'm curious, Jose or Sean, have you used this before? Or know students or faculty who have?
Well, for me, they should, because I've been doing tons of workshops on it. But Sean, I don't know about you.
I have not used it yet. I do a very small assignment where we use AI in a limited way. But one of the things that my students ask me is how can I create my own quizzes, and what can I do to bolster my understanding rather than use it in terms of like a fear factor. How do I use it creatively?
And this is perfect for that. So imagine, you're halfway through the semester and your students are putting all their class notes in it. You can ask it to create a quiz. What do you think Professor Scanlon's going to ask? Or what could he ask? And start, it's a tremendous study tool. I wish I had this when I was in school. But as I say, it's people of all ages and all types of applications can be using it. So this is one of the takeaways I'd encourage you to, this is one of those first steps, like try using it, because I think you're going to be blown away. And then you'll use it a lot more. And this is just an example. I was up at my alma mater, and they have a creamery on campus because it started out as a land grant institution for agriculture. And they still have this creamery, which, by the way, if you're up at Penn State, it's incredible. But I took the URL for this creamery, and that's all I put into the Notebook LM. And it created an 8-minute podcast talking about the history of the creamery, all the different flavors they have. It was a really engaging podcast, and it did it in like 30 seconds. So extraordinary. So I want to leave you once again with AI as the new level playing field. Basically, everybody's got access to the same tools, and it's your skills collaborating with it which are going to set you apart. And with that, I want to sort of ask you, what's the biggest opportunity that an AI can enable for you? Thinking and remembering that there are no traffic jams on the extra mile. This is going to be what sets you apart if you find new and interesting ways to use these tools. And then I also want to encourage everyone, we're going to do Q&A now, but this is the QR code for my LinkedIn, and I encourage you to stay in touch. Feel free to ask me questions. Always happy to come in. This is sort of my way of giving back. So happy to come in and talk to different groups like this. So with that, Sean and Jose, why don't we open this up to questions?
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was really inspiring. A lot of material to think about. Maybe to get us started, as maybe people are thinking of questions, I'd like to start with my own. yesterday we had a great conversation as we were preparing for today's talk, and it was a great phone call. And I thought about my own role as a teacher is to try to help position my students, especially as advanced undergraduates in the professional writing and professional editing fields, how I can help them position themselves. And I know that they can't learn every tool, and I know that there's a lot of a little anxiety out there as they approach their senior year. And you talked about this really great concept of the secret sauce as a way to kind of combat the fear and anxiety of what students need to think about in terms of like capability. And I was wondering if you could run with that idea of the secret sauce for a minute.
That's great. I think it truly is. We are all graced with our own secret sauce. We're all very individual, and this is not some proverb or something. This is not cliche, but we all truly have a very unique and different perspective, and that's our secret sauce and our different way of viewing things. And I think that this is where AI and the jetpack analogy, we have now these tools. If your secret sauce and your way of looking at things is the way of music interpretation or coming up with a cool different perspective, you can use AI tools to make a screenplay or a musical, some sort of music or an opera that it used to be you'd have to have expensive tools to do. Now you can do that very easily or quickly. I think the temptation, so first off, you have these tools and can really make a more concentrated version of that secret sauce and express that in ways you could never do before. But I think one of the temptations is to use AI to borrow ideas or copy things or take a quick route with, a paper or something. And in reality, AI used that way is diluting your special secret sauce because everybody's got access to that. They're all going to be using AI. Some of them are going to be using AI to do that paper easier or quicker. And it sort of takes away from your secret sauce. It just makes it bland and less intense. Whereas if you say, this is the assignment, let me lean into how I can do this assignment in a way that nobody else can do. And I can express this assignment in more than just a 500-word essay, but I can also do it with a song, with a podcast, with maybe some images. This is the way I think we all need to think about it.
That's great. Thanks. Jose, do you have any ideas, or should we shift to some questions? Let me look in the chat and see what's happening here. Let's see. I like Scott Daly's comment about the pods campaign and if there's any traffic accidents happening because there's a moving sign on a truck. I didn't know it was illuminated. There was a nighttime scene and it's illuminated. That so there's like an LCD screen that's able to capture what's happening around it, environmentally aware.
I didn't hear about any traffic accidents. Question.
And I think there is a hand up from Michael Boulis. Do you have your hand up? If you have a question, go ahead and turn on your mic and let's hear it.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's I don't know how to start, but let me start with Jeff first. The video you make for New York City College, you singing and dancing, and isn't it a fake something from AI? You don't do that yourself.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's fake. So AI. I'm not talking about Jeff as in this. I'm talking about in general. AI is fake. Fake. It doesn't give us the truth, the true story about the person. I'm talking about. I'm just sorry, Jeff. I'm using example. As a teacher in a college, I face the following. Student do their homework, project, whatever, using AI. So a question. Am I grading a computer or am I grading brain? So I feel like an old person. I'm almost 7,000 years old. Yeah, when I look at it, who I'm dealing with, am I dealing with computer? You understand? So let us look 100 years from now. Of course, AI is going to be something I cannot tell you, and I'm proud to tell you that I'm not going to be there 100 years from now. The point is very simple. You understand? We're not going to have human being. We're going to have everything fake. But school going to be fake. Everything is not right. It's not right. You mentioned something. I'm going to give you the answer for this. You mentioned something I like very much. You said we need to have regulations, laws and order. But all the time we have laws and orders all over the world, but nobody follow. That's why we have crime. We have people who still do that, whatever you name it. I understand that. But it's besides it's scary, and everything we look at scary. One time I asked my class to write, about subject. I teach engineering, and some of them, when I read it, number one, I look at the person and I look at the writing. I say it's not you. Number two, some of them I felt it's a machine. There is no touch of human being. There is no touch of being a brainer. I guess we are killing our generations. From a 7,000 years old young man, I feel it is not right. We are killing all the human being.
Yeah, I hear you with that. But at the same time, so I think this is where when I mentioned that it can be used in ways that are not authentic and not productive, I think we're still trying to find our way with some people using it to plagiarize and so on. But I think education, higher ed, all education is going to need to change the way we test and measure, learning and intelligence and innovation. So the ways we've tested it may need to be changed, but ultimately, I think we're still going to be able to test and measure secret sauce and everybody's individual perspectives. It's going to be different, and you and I can't necessarily visualize what that difference is, but I think it's going to be different, and we're going to be able to test it in a way that will demonstrate that. Right now, quizzes and those types of things are too easy to game with this type of technology.
Yeah, if I could maybe jump in here as a composition teacher, I have had to deal with this, front and center. And what I've had to do is really kind of retool some of my assignments. And I have to think about how can I have a student develop their writing? How can they actually improve their skills? And instead of them writing a 5-page paper on Edith Wharton, which would be incredibly easy to send in a great prompt, and you could even enter in my instructions. Instead, what I do is I have them write a personal essay about themselves. That's hard for AI to write an essay about me if it doesn't know me. Even if it could scrape my CV, it's not going to know what I did last summer. So I changed the assignment to actually try to get more from the student out front of the information. And then we work on sentence structures, paragraph structures, verb formulations, and really get into the writing. So I have had to change my assignments, change the way they're delivered, but also I try to help them say, okay, what is an ethical use of AI? Now that you've written the essay, maybe you can learn how to rewrite your conclusion by perhaps exploring 5 different ways that conclusion could be written. And then you could select one and then you could write it in your own way. We also do color coding, where a paragraph is color coded by different audiences and different approaches. And so I've had to be incredibly agile. I've had to adapt, just like you keep saying. It is not easy, but all students, when they come into any workplace environment, any workplace is not just about to use AI, they've already been using it. So being fluent is important. And so, Michael, I suggest, and we can talk about this offline, there needs to be changes in the way you approach testing, exams, quizzes, and final products in your class.
Can I make a comment on this? Schools will never win. Professor, teachers, they will never win, because the time we change our way to approach whatever assignment, project, design, AI getting more smart and smarter. So we are in a losing issue here. The first approach with this for me was a year ago. I'm going to take a minute extra. I'm sorry. I have bunch of professors and teachers. Hey, AI is a second God or whatever. So ask the question. After whatever, in front of them, I put a question. AI answer me 7 times wrong, because I put a question from my own experience. And finally, AI get it right. ChatGPT. Then I got angry and I cursed. I said, GPT, you stupid, da, 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 da. I believe AI answered me that I have to behave. I have to be, in a better manner. Right away, I stood and I looked behind the computer. I said, there's maybe somebody there. You understand? So, last question, and I promise I'm going to shut up for the rest of my life. AI is really a machine or somebody in my imagination? I'm sorry, I have imagination. Sitting somewhere in a universe, getting our questions and answer back to us. What is it?
It's truly an amalgam.
Somebody sitting in one of the plants outside in a universe? No? Yes?
It's truly an amalgam of, it's extraordinary in that way. But we do have to realize it's totally there. It can give a lot of wrong answers. That's where you have to really this is part of the secret sauce, is how do you take that answer? Just like Sean, you were talking about, maybe you generate a great paper, but then you ask one of the agents to say, how might I change this ending? Give me 5 different ways to do it. All of a sudden, it opens up possibilities of 5 different ways to take what you did and tailor it. And that's a cool possibility. Hey, guys, I want to
be. So, Jeff, where's my brain here? Where's my brain? Where's my thinking?
Your brain is constantly thinking and challenging and saying, how do we do this better? And I want to make sure, guys, that I'm careful about your time here, because I know we've got a limit. So.
Yes, I just want to, Jeff, thank you again, Jeff, a wonderful presentation, and, for taking the time to join us today. I do see one question in the chat. I think it's a student, Ann Chan. I'm not sure if it's a student or a professor, is asking, how do we as designers distinguish AI-driven persuasion from manipulation, and what safeguards ensure user autonomy and trust?
I don't know if I quite understand that all.
I can clarify my question. Hi, this is Ann Chen. I'm an adjunct professor. I'm also an architect working at the Gensler architecture firm. So a lot of my students, they are using AI in many ways. But one question, like looking at your presentation, right? Your presentation has to do with advertisement and like we're using the tool to persuade the audience. But then thinking back how to connect that back to design, we are in a way designing to convince and to persuade, but where do we draw the line of like we're showing the reality versus we're making it like using the tool to arrive at what we desire, like what we desire as a desirable outcome. And then if there's anything we need to be careful about, now with AI without that human judgment behind it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we still all the players, all the stakeholders in these decisions are still the same. So as a designer, you've got your client, you've got you've got engineers, you've got regulators, so on and so forth, who are all involved in the decision. Now, the designer may be wanting to make their rendering more compelling, but at the end of the day, and especially as people become more familiar and accustomed to all these AI renderings, they're just going to up their capabilities of expecting, like, okay, I see this image, I see it looks very realistic, but do I think this works for me? Do I think this is going to, fit the bill for what we're asking? I think that's ultimately the rising tide raises all ships. And I don't see that things are going to materially change so much in that way. Sean, you had a question?
Maybe just a comment. I don't have all the answers to this, but I edit a journal, and there's a lot of issues as a journal editor with submissions, and how do we check for this, and what kind of tools do we use, what's available to us, and what the editorial board and I have been discussing is the need for transparency. And so if